Hello, Packers fans. Welcome into the Green 19 podcast from JS Online and PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined as always by Tom Silverstein and Ryan Wood here from Lambeau Field, where we wanted to go ahead and get you your podcast on the normal day that we normally do. But there is going to be a little extra day built in this week because the Packers are playing a Monday night football game, another primetime game, 2 weeks in a row, facing the New York Giants. Guys, Jordan Love was asked today about coming through this gauntlet that they just played versus Rams, Steelers, Chargers, Chiefs.
Gauntlet.
Gauntlet.
A gauntlet is a thing you throw down to someone when you're going to fight.
Right. Thus the word.
No, a gauntlet is
What's
like
a
gauntlet is like something you go through where it's really hard, like you have all these challenges and people are whacking at you and stuff like that.
Wait, those are different?
Those are,
Yes.
I thought it was the same word.
Spoon, you just taught me something.
Yeah, look it up.
I'm going to need you to Google this and prove it because I don't know if I believe you.
Okay. Anyway.
They just came
something.
through a stretch
Right.
filled
Better,
with challenges
better.
and obstacles. And now they head into a stretch that seemingly, at least on paper, should be much easier. What are the different mindsets going from one stretch to another, especially when you consider they came through the tough stretch, 3 out of 4 out of the last 5, I'm trying to think, relatively unscathed, especially considering how we thought they would. Of course, he sort of gave the PC answer, we take every game the same, it doesn't matter what their record is, da-da-da-da-da. But this is going to be a much different stretch. Spoon, how do you expect the Packers to kind of start this particular gauntlet beginning Monday night
Stretch
with the Giants?
I don't know. I don't know anything about how they're going to
Well, then what
respond.
are you doing here?
I mean, what, I could have predicted them 0-4, for that other stretch. I just think they're an unpredictable team, and they're going through situations we don't know how they're going to react to, and this is going to be another one.
Ryan?
I'm with Spoon. This team has gone rogue.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I will say this. This is the first time that they are not the underdog. They're a clear favorite. They haven't been that yet. And so I think for really good reason. Like we all kind of expect or think they should handle the rest of their schedule pretty well since we just saw how they've been playing against teams that are really good. So, well, if they can handle those teams, gosh, these teams are nothing. And it's true. On paper, they should come very close to winning out if they keep playing how they're playing, but we don't know if that's going to happen because now things are different. Now things are changed. Like they're not the scrappy underdog anymore. They're the clear and heavy favorite against the Giants. They'll be the favorite at home against the Bucs. They'll be the huge favorite against Carolina, Chicago. We don't know, what the line will be for the Vikings at US Bank Stadium, but this is an entirely different role now, and how they handle that, we don't know because we haven't seen them actually. They haven't had to handle it. So that's the question for this team down the stretch. Now everything's reversed. The world's turned upside down for this franchise, and how are they going to handle that?
But again, also, you're made up of so many young guys that they probably don't know any different than to work their way out of it.
Yes and no. I don't know.
AJ Dillon was asked that question today too, and he said, it doesn't matter if we're having an off year or even a year where if it's a few weeks off, we've got 100+ years of history that the Green Bay Packers are always going to have a target on their back. But, does Jaden Reed know that? Does Dontavian Wicks know that? I guess is kind of my point.
Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks,
they're
might
just
be
examples.
Rookies. Any rookie might be a rookie, but they're intelligent enough to know, if we win this game, we might go to the playoffs, and they're going to run into and that's pressure. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a rookie or not, from a first-year player to a Kenny Clark veteran, every player wants to go to the playoffs. I mean, you want to play more football. You want to win games that are meaningful in December and January. They all know that. So at some point, there's going to be pressure regardless. And maybe there's a little bit of, they're young, so you just go out there. But early in the season, they can make mistakes because, no one. But now they have a real shot to get to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's just different.
Jordan Love did say today, every game is a playoff game for us right now. They know that's kind of the pressure they're under if they want a chance. Spoon, they're going to have to start, of course, with the Giants. This is a team they played last year, lost to last year. Dylan said today that that's a game they've gone back and watched this week, just kind of familiarizing themselves with some of the personnel and what they'll do, at least on the defensive side. The offensive guys are looking at. How much of that Giants team that beat the Packers in London last year can you really learn from when preparing to face this team this year?
Well, there's a significant amount of guys on offense that are still there. Slayton, I think Wandale Robinson was there. Of course, Barkley is, he was a little better part of himself when he played the Packers the last time. He's been a little banged up this year. They haven't been running the ball as well as they have. But, and then they had a running quarterback. Daniel Jones could hurt them big time with his scrambles. And, that's probably the biggest difference is that, they're going to be facing a quarterback who has done a nice little run here, but he gets sacked a lot. And the Packers are a team that gets after the quarterback. And so, they're going to have to load up on the run, stop Barkley, and then get after DeVito on third downs.
Ryan, based off what they've done the past few games, do you feel pretty confident saying they can do that? I mean, are there any trap areas of this Giants team for the Packers?
What makes it a trap game, and really, if they're the favorite, they're all trap games because they are so young. But what makes it a trap game is you just got through this, what are we calling it? Gauntlet? What are we calling
Stretch.
it? This stretch. You just got through the stretch where 3 weeks ago they thought, they didn't think this, but we thought that they were staring at 3-9. That's what we thought 3 weeks ago. Maybe 4-8. They scrape one out, but that's the best case scenario. And they just got through this stretch of beating these teams that are good teams, right? And all of a sudden, they watch the film. They know that the Giants are not the same caliber as the Chiefs and the Lions. They're aware of this because they understand football. And so now you get to this part and avoiding that exhale. Okay, we got through that. It should get easier. And as soon as you think that's when you can get beat. So that's what I think we need to see from this very young team is can you keep that same intensity, that same focus, and not have the exhale going against a team that you should beat?
The question that we have to do every week?
Mm-hmm.
That's, I believe, in the Journal Sentinel and Press Gazette.
Mm-hmm.
And on PackersNews.com, so go check it out. The question this week was, predict the Packers' remaining schedule and like kind of where you think the wins and losses are. What did y'all say?
I said I thought they would go 4-1, and I thought they would lose in Minnesota.
Okay.
And I had said this would be the second hardest game they face.
Okay.
I said the same. And I said the same. Minnesota. The other thing I said though, if you had to tell me 5-0 or 3-2, I think I'm more inclined to say 3-2. And so I do think 4-1, but I think I'd be more inclined to say 3-2 than 5-0.
I could see him stumbling in this game.
Yeah.
I could see it happening. I mean, the Giants were on a bye, so they're coming in pretty fresh. Martindale's had a whole week, even if he and Brian Dable are feuding. They're probably getting their act together for this game. It's a critical game for them. So, I could see this being a loss. I think the Packers are a better team, and they have a better quarterback, and they have a better pass rush, and that's usually a pretty good combination for winning.
The thing with this game that stands out to me is that the Giants are 9th in the league in opponent passer rating.
Yeah.
They came off the bye a week ago. They were 9th, obviously. They were ahead of the Chiefs. They're one spot ahead of the Chiefs in opponent passer rating, which is the definitive stat if you're going to see how do you defend the quarterback in the passing game. It's opponent passer rating, and they're 9th in the league. So this is not while this is a terrible Giants team, and they are terrible, this is not a terrible Giants pass defense. They defend the quarter. So this is a test for Jordan Love on Monday night on the road. And, I think you look if they're able to keep the same high level for this game and not play down, there's more belief that comes from that. And then you've got other tests. I think a test that's still remaining out there. What if everything rides on Week 18 against a terrible Chicago Bears team, but you're at home? Everyone in the world expects you to win. The Bears have nothing to lose. They're terrible. They have nothing to lose, and then you've got everything to gain. How are they going to handle that moment if that moment comes? I mean, I think there's still tests out there.
I said they would go 4-1, and this is the game they would lose, this Giants game. I think that they're kind of due for a humbling, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I think they get it together for that Vikings game, and I think there's also a little redemption factor there for that Vikings game. But this is, as you said, Giants coming off a bye. This is a primetime game for the Giants. This is, a chance to save some jobs. There's a very, very good chance they won't have Christian Watson, which has been a big part of their offense the past few weeks, kind of taking the top off. And that is notoriously players' least favorite field to play on. It's just a tough place to play, not because of the atmosphere, not because of anything to do with that, but players just hate playing on that particular field. They say it's ripe for injury. And so I think we're going to see some slips, some self-tackles, some, not catching up to the balls, at least in the first half, while they kind of figure it out. And so it's just, I don't know, it just feels like a trap game.
If I could add something to that, the other thing with this Giants team?
I'm just kidding.
Please?
Yes.
They've won 2 in a row, and now they're coming off a bye. Now, before that, they lost 7 of 8. So the Packers at one point this season lost 6 of 8. And if you are listening to this podcast, you probably followed that, and you know how that felt. That was, you just couldn't come up for air during that losing streak. And the Giants have been through one of those, but they've come up from air now. They've won 2 in a row. It's against Washington and New England, who are terrible football teams. It ain't looked particularly good doing it, but they've come up for air. They've won 2 in a row. They go into a bye. This is a team that, in terms of finishing out the season, saving jobs, they feel like they've gained a little bit of momentum, and they've had extra time to prepare. So it's not a gimme from that standpoint.
What was that Patriot score? It's like 6-0, 9-0.
It was, 10-7?
Yeah. No, because I don't think the Patriots...
Yeah, it was 10-7.
Oh, it must have been a defensive score, because I don't think the Patriots scored an offensive touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good, Bob. Not how you necessarily want to win a football game in the National Football League, but I guess you take it however you can get it. Let's talk about the Christian Watson of it all for a second here. He spoke today being Thursday, and he did not practice today, said that, he's just kind of taking it one day at a time, that a large part of his reaction on Sunday was not necessarily how it felt, but more so the mental part of it. He was just sort of like, here we go again. And he stayed on the sideline Sunday night after that game, or after he came out of the game, which, has to be encouraging, I guess, if you're the Packers. The way Christian Watson was talking about the hamstring today and what the issue was, I was like, he probably has a PhD in this now. Like just all he's spent studying it the past year and a half. They have an extra day. That helps. But Spoon, do you trot him out there if you can get away with not?
I don't think he's going to play. I mean, I just don't. I mean, he can. Maybe it was just a little tweak, but the fact that he's had the injury in the same hamstring earlier this year and it kept him out 3 games says to me, why chance it? It just doesn't make sense unless it was one of these things where he just scared himself.
Yeah.
But you talked to him today. I didn't hear anything he had to say. So
I asked him point blank. I'm curious if I'm sure Matt LaFleur was asked about this, and I wasn't.
Matt LaFleur gave up nothing.
That's what
nothing. Yeah.
I asked Christian Watson, is it going to be pretty hard for you to get out there Monday night? It's more of a week-to-week thing. He's like, yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult for him to get out there. So I don't expect him to play. The other thing I spoke with him a lot about was avoiding this recurring issue, because at this point, at this stage, this present, what he is at the moment, he's injury prone. He just can't stay healthy, and there's never a good time to have an injury, and injuries are part of the game for every player, but this is like the worst time because he'd finally discovered his game. And over the last couple of weeks, a major part of this resurgence has been that their number one receiver's become their number one receiver again. He's got 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. I mean, nobody gets hot like Christian Watson. When he finally gets hot, oh my goodness. And then this. So how do you avoid this from becoming, stop this from becoming a recurring issue? And he said that, one, he's spent tens of thousands of dollars consulting with medical experts trying to find the answer. Like, he is frustrated, and for good reason. And the general consensus, he said, was that he's got to strengthen his back to make it more so that the hamstring doesn't overcompensate.
That's interesting.
He needs more well-distributed muscular definition and strength so that you're not putting so much stress on your hamstring. So this, it's late in the season. I don't know if he can address that now.
No, that's an off-season.
But this off-season, he is going to be focusing on strengthening his back so that it's more evenly distributed.
I'm trying to figure out, where the back would, how the back would carry the weight so the hamstrings don't. Or
I only play a doctor on TV. So
I only know that my
really
back has hurt all week. So I haven't had a hamstring issue. What I told him was, I'm not a kinesthesiologist. I don't understand how it all works together, but that's what he's been told. Is that the back especially needs to be stronger so that the hamstrings will hold up.
Yeah.
I guess it's all connected. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Well, we know that it is. I mean, we see. I remember when Jordy Nelson was coming back from the torn ACL, he was talking about making sure that the other parts of his body were also strengthened so that you're not putting too much stress on your knee.
I remember when Robert Brooks came back from a knee injury, catastrophic knee injury, patellar, ACL, and he came back and was in as good a shape as anybody, but he eventually had to retire because his back went out because all the compensation he had done with this getting back, on the field and then playing, it put all this stress on his back. And so, that totally makes sense. Everything is connected. And so, he's going to have to figure out something in the offseason. Clay Matthews did. Remember Clay Matthews had hamstring? I've mentioned this before. He had hamstring injuries for 3 straight training camps. We missed the entire training camp. And then he figured out, how to get himself ready for the season, and then it wasn't a problem. But, you have to find out what the right techniques are or whatever.
It's interesting as we're talking about this. So I'm not kidding. My back this week has been awful. It hurts. And I'm not a professional athlete, so I'm not saying, hey, it's the same thing as Christian Watson. I'm not. I've never been confused as an NFL player. But what I do a lot of lifting in the gym, and I do so much less. I have so much less time in the season to really get in there, and so as I've been doing chest, triceps, arms, I haven't really been doing my back like I do in the off season. It's probably not a coincidence that my back is all jacked up. That's what it's all connected. I'm going through it, but that's just the way that the body works. And so for a professional athlete like Christian Watson, you got to make sure that you're hitting everything, and that's kind of something that's come to his light.
Very interesting. That would be an interesting story to talk with a kinesiologist about how it all works, especially for a fast, tightly wound guy like Christian Watson. Okay, so next part of this question or this conversation, if you're the Packers, and they have clearly shown the ability to play without some of their biggest playmakers, without Christian Watson at times. They've largely not had Aaron Jones through this stretch of the last few wins. But now that you've sort of figured something out, quote unquote, with your offense, how do you now compensate for it without having Watson on the field on Monday?
I put Dontavian Wicks in there and I roll. That's it.
That's your guy.
That's it. I mean, really. I mean, what is there's no risk. There's no, why would you think he's not ready to be a starter given everything that he's done this year? I'm not saying he's going to be Christian Watson, but plug him in there. He's a starter with Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs, and off you go. And Malik Heath is the fourth receiver. And maybe they, make Samori Toure, or if they like the kid on the practice squad, Grant
Dubose.
Yeah, maybe they like him. I don't know. But Yeah, I would have no qualms about Wicks being their starter.
Do you make Wicks your deep guy, or do you let Dobbs take care of that this week?
I think they all switch around. I don't think there's one guy who's, pegged for any type of routes. I think it's better that way, really.
Yeah.
There's so many chicken or the egg conversations going on around this team right now. One of them I find fascinating is, Matt LaFleur's offense looks better. He's calling better plays now. Well, do you think that Matt LaFleur didn't want to open up the playbook week 4? Like, of course he wanted to. He couldn't do it until the players caught up in their execution. They developed. It's not like he just learned how to call plays the last 3 weeks. But I think another one is with Christian Watson and the supporting cast.
Yeah.
And Spoon, you've been you hit it right on the head in Pittsburgh, but you got to make things easier for Christian Watson by having other playmakers around him so that you're not just forcing him the ball when the defense knows that he's your number one, or you're going to force him the ball. And for his emergence to have happened recently, it came in conjunction with a lot of supporting cast players like Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave before he got injured, all these guys developing and making plays of their own. So there's an element to this offense that you are absolutely missing without Christian Watson, because he's just built different, and you can't just replace that.
And like you said, he's on a roll. He's gained confidence. He gained confidence at the first play of that Detroit game, and it's been building ever since. So you can't replace that.
But you've been getting plays elsewhere too. It's not like Christian Watson's been your only playmaker, so you can't replace it, but you don't need to. You need to just keep feeding the other guys that have been making plays alongside him and hope that they continue doing what they're doing. If they do that in this game, it should be enough.
Let's focus on the Jordan Love part of it now. That's another guy that you can just see his confidence going up the past few weeks. And I think by the time we got to the third quarter of that Chiefs game, he was feeling it. That when it's your night, it's your night. And it was his night on Sunday. And how much of that can you carry over, I guess, to even – well, I guess we have seen it carry over. We've seen it carry over. That Steelers game, even though it was a loss, the offense took a huge step forward. We saw it then carry over to the LA game, and then the Lions, and then the Chiefs. Are we going to see his floor continue to rise, Spoon, this year, or do you think that we'll see his? I'm not really sure if I'm asking this question the right way. Like, is his ceiling going up or his floor going up?
I think the thing that will be most interesting will be how he reacts when he has a rough day or rough series or a rough half. Let's say he throws 2 interceptions in the first half and they don't score. They have a bad half. How does he respond in the second half? Is he that same guy that he was in Kansas City? He figures out how to turn it around, or is he just carry through and he can't find a way to pick it up? I mean, that's what I'm most interested to see. I think every game is different and every defense is different. He's definitely on a roll too, just like Christian Watson. But at some point, something bad's going to happen, and that's what I want to see. How does he react to something bad happening?
I'm going to make a prediction off of that. I think based off what we've seen of him so far, just seeing him in games and just seeing his demeanor at practice, training camp, in the locker room, he's so even keel. And I think that they probably even wanted him to maybe get a little juiced up earlier in the season when things were going wrong. And the only time he really did was when he almost got in that fight in that preseason game. But he's so even keel that I don't think 2 interceptions will throw him off. Yeah,
it won't throw him off, but what does he have enough to pick his game back up off the ground? It may not affect him like for the season, but can he flip the switch after having a bad half? He didn't do that this year. He hasn't done that this year, really.
Even versus, was the Saints game a bad half in the first half? I can't remember.
It wasn't great. I still think that game was overrated, in terms of what he did. But I mean, can he really, be a big factor in a second half after playing lousy in the first half? That happens. Has to happen for a good quarterback.
I think a lot of the issues in the Saints game were just all those pre-snap penalties in the first half. They just procedurally didn't line up right, didn't give themselves a chance. I'm with you on when things go bad, but specifically, he was 21 of 23 for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns with a clean pocket against the Chiefs. His 2 incompletions were drops. He was literally perfect. I don't even tell you, that's a perfect passer rating. He was automatic with a clean pocket. You can't rely on that in life in the NFL. You know, the offensive line, he was, I think, 4 of 13 for 73 yards with a hurried or hit against the Chiefs.
2 touchdowns, though. 2 touchdowns with a guy in his face.
Yeah.
You know.
But when things are good in the pocket, it's a lot easier to throw the football. What happens when things break down? When he has another week 4, right? When the rush is just coming at him, swarming, collapsing around him, how does he handle that? Because that's going to happen. You can't count on all these clean pressure, these clean pocket looks week in, week out in this league. So it's going to come at some point, and I want to see how he handles really dirty pockets and just not having time, not being able to stand back there. I want to see that part of it.
You're saying a consistently dirty pocket like the entire game?
Yeah, where the protection's just not holding up and it's caving in. Because that's how you affect good quarterbacks, whether you're Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Tua, like whoever you are, Jordan Love. That's how you affect them, is by 4 quarters consistently throughout getting after them. How does he handle that?
Yeah, because to your point, Spoon, he had pressure on the touchdowns. Chris Jones was all up in his face on that 4th and 1 throw to Romeo Doubs, but it wasn't all game. Like it looked a lot different. But
but he made some clutch plays with guys in his face.
And this is what I'm also kind of interested to find out. And Spoon, I don't know if you've gotten to go back and rewatch it yet, or Ryan, if you've rewatched it. But like, how much of the not having pressure in his face as much compared to the first time he faced the Chiefs versus this week? How much of that lesser pressure was because he was also manipulating the pocket?
I'm not sure. I can't remember the first game as much. You watched it. I don't really remember how that went.
Like, I guess I'm asking how much of that clean pocket was because he was also moving it to keep it clean.
I don't recall a lack of a clean pocket being a problem week 1. They had David Bakhtiari, who actually played really well.
2021?
She means the Kansas City game in 2021. That's the
Gosh.
game I didn't watch.
Okay, I thought
You
you
rewatched it. I don't remember how much he was knocked out.
Well, I'm
of
just
the
saying because
pocket.
that's the game. That's our barometer, or that's our example of what we look to. Of this is what Jordan Love looked like when there was pressure all game and pressure in his face, and then this is what he looked like this time versus the same defense, the same calls, the same defensive coordinator, and it's like how much of him looking different was not so much even the offensive line or what the Chiefs did or didn't do. How much of that also was him, evading that pressure and getting to a position in the pocket or on boots where it wasn't an issue, and he himself sort of negated it by how he played.
What they wanted him to do that first game against Kansas City in 2021 was throw deep when the pocket broke down against the blitz, and he wasn't able to do that. So from that standpoint, but I mean, the way that they blitzed relentlessly in that game, it was constant. It was dang near every play. I think it was a total offensive breakdown. Jordan Love had some part of that, but it just when you're and part of that's just inevitable when you're under that much pressure and that much blitz look every play, because you know that you don't have a quarterback you have to fear. It's tough for an offensive line to hold up under that.
Yeah. You looked like you wanted to add something.
No, I mean, he manipulated the pocket fairly well. I thought the protection was pretty good. They picked up almost all the blitzes. Like, you didn't really see, only a couple times was there a free runner. But I think the best part that he does is his arm angles, is get the ball out in some of those situations that could be batted balls. But he has a knack for throwing around guys who are coming up, in his face. And that's a real talent. He can throw over the top too. he's so tall and has long arms that if he needs to throw over a defender too, he can do that. So that's the part that I see that's really impressive, when he's under pressure.
Speaking of the protection, now that we have seen this in practice for a few weeks now, how do you feel about the decision to continue to rotate on the line?
Why mess with a thing that's working? It seems to be working okay. This last game they went more with Rasheed Walker and, than Yosh Nijman, and that was probably based on what they were seeing. And, maybe this week Yosh Nijman's a better matchup. I don't know. Sean Ryan, he's still a work in progress, and Runyon is still a better overall player. But why not? Keep working him. See if, he starts to pick it up a little bit as a pass blocker. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
The left tackle rotation debate, it reminds me so much of the why can't Matt LaFleur call good plays early in the season, right? You really think that they want to rotate their left tackles? In this league, if you have two left tackles, you have no left tackles. They'd love, and Adam Stenavich has said this, they'd love for a guy to step up and be their pillar on the blind side. They'd love nothing more than that. They don't have that. They've got two NFL players, but a 7th-round pick and an undrafted guy. I mean, that's their two left tackle options. They wish that it wasn't the case, but they're doing what they have to do to get through with that until they can draft a left tackle in the first round next year.
Well, one thing LaFleur mentioned, and I agree with this, is that they're presenting two different players to the pass rushers. So all of a sudden, this week it'll be Kayvon Thibodeau. You've got this massive guy with huge, long arms, very athletic, maybe a little more susceptible to, bull rush or something. And then you got a more compact guy in Rasheed Walker. And so you have to change up. It's not like you've been setting up, let's say you've been setting up Rasheed Walker for a couple of moves, and then all of a sudden Yosh Nijman's in there. So he hasn't been privy to all your setup moves to that point. So I think there is some advantage to making that switch. It is a little bit of a change up to the pass rusher.
That's interesting. Let's flip to the other side of the ball real quick here before we head down to coaches. Same sort of deal as last year, but you're facing a much different quarterback in DeVito, right?
Mm-hmm.
In DeVito than you were in Daniel Jones. It feels like the Giant fan base, they're sort of riding this roller coaster with DeVito right now. It's fun. It's a great story. It's a good narrative. But at some point, it's got to run out, right? And as you mentioned earlier, the Packers pass rush, this should be another week where they just really, really take over. Did the Giants have anything other than Saquon Barkley to sort of, I guess, help DeVito out of this pass rush?
Yeah. Well, I mean, their receiving core is pretty decent. The Packers could use Slayton. He's a really good veteran.
Isn't
receiver.
That who kind of tore him up last year?
Yeah. DeVito has made plays. He's just been good enough. They also have the prospect of, if he's not playing well, they can bring in Tyrod Taylor, who they, open the window off IR this week. And he's a much better player than Tommy DeVito. And I don't think he would need that much time to be ready. And I'll bet you he's active. So who knows? Maybe DeVito doesn't get the job done, and then they bring in Tyrod Taylor, and the whole game changes. So that'll be something to watch. And then, how much of their pass rush is affected by having to defend Saquon Barkley? Boy, if that isn't their number one priority, stopping Saquon Barkley, then they got a big problem.
So you're saying they shouldn't go with two down linemen? I couldn't help myself.
No. What's a down lineman?
I think it's the hand in the ground, or are they outside linebackers too?
I don't know. We better ask that, Matt LaFleur.
We should ask him that.
And Saquon Barkley, he's gonna get some of it. He's gonna get some yards. You almost just kind of resign yourself. It's almost like when you're playing Derrick Henry. He's gonna break off one. And is it just limit the damage as much as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, force them. First of all, play him well on first down, and then get ahead. If you get ahead, you can take him out of the game because, once you're ahead by 14 or something like that, running the ball is not going to be a great way to get back into the game. So, you have to do a number of things to take a really great running back out of the game. But first down is critical. You can't let them keep getting 5-6 yards on first down.
We have now seen them being the Packers too, get the ball first. I think a couple of weeks in a row now. The Chiefs deferred, but I'll say again,
first, yeah.
If you're the Packers on Monday night and you win the toss, are you taking it?
I asked Matt LaFleur that question after the game, half in jest, but I literally said, safe to say you're never going to defer after winning the opening coin toss again because, look, it's a little different because they're going against a lesser opponent. I think a big part of taking the ball first against really good teams when you know you need to get off to a fast start and because you coached a team that went through 5 straight first halves without getting into the end zone, it's been a problem, is to give yourself a better crack at it. And they don't necessarily need to they don't have to get off to a fast start the way that they did it that they needed to against the Chiefs and the Lions. But if you stick with what works, I don't know why you'd switch it up at this point. It's really, really worked.
I don't think I would either.
Yeah.
I don't, and you have a chance to shut down the crowd right away. Put doubt in the Giants' head right away. So I would take the ball for sure. Especially when you got Keyshawn Nixon with the potential of him getting a decent return right out of the box. Yeah, I would definitely start out with the ball.
There's a reason they're sticking with DeVito instead of going to Tyrod Taylor, right? It's because DeVito just won them 2 games. I know that one of them's 10-7, but they just won 2 games with this guy.
Right.
They've had the bye week. They sense that small momentum that they've built up. What better way to squash that than to go up 7-0 before they touch the ball? That just sucks all the oxygen out of a team. So, that it would help. Yeah, the last 2 first opening drives that they've had, and to follow it with the second drives. It's not just the opening drives. The last 2 drives to open the last 2 games. I don't switch anything up.
And to your point, Spoon, and the reason I kind of asked this question to start with is because that could be one of your better defenses against Barkley, right? Is to go up and to go up quick.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, no question.
I know we've got coaches coming up here in just a few minutes, but talking about Keyshawn Nixon, is this one of those fields? I don't know. I've never been to this stadium. Is this one of those fields that kind of can negate a good return guy? Like, what is it about this field that players hate so much?
The turf. I remember.
It's just the turf.
But a lot of stadiums have turf. What is it about this one?
The last time they played the Giants, I forget. They played the Giants and Jets on the road back-to-back years. I can't remember. This was 18, I think, right? 17.
Yeah, 18 wasn't it like the last game of the year?
Yeah,
pretty close.
17.
To
Philbin was the interim coach against the Jets.
No, 18.
18. Okay, so was this 19? This might have been 19. 19 when they
played the Giants. Yeah.
It all blends together. But the last time they played the Giants, it was a snowy game. It was, and
that's right.
I've never walked on a worse field.
Yeah, that was
in my
bad
life
after the game.
Walking in the way.
What was it?
It was. I had to walk across the field away from the whole field to get after the locker room, and it was like an ice rink. I couldn't, and I didn't have cleats, but there was no traction. And it was, I mean, it was like dangerous for me to walk on the field. That's how it felt. Now, again, I didn't have cleats, but the quality of this field turf is quite poor. And I don't think that it's going to be inclement weather Monday night.
It's supposed to rain pretty bad Sunday night, and so it's like if it gets pushed into Monday, if it's late, it could get pushed into Monday.
By Monday night, they should have the field conditions in good shape. But on an inclement field, it's a terrible, terrible field. I've never walked on a field where I was like, oh my goodness, this is really not good for me to walk on right now.
Yeah. I know that it's consistently when they do those anonymous surveys with the players every year, it's consistently voted as the worst field. I remember one year the 49ers had like 6 injuries in one game, and it was on that field. And they said afterwards it's because that is the worst field to play on.
I've walked on that one and Ford Field. This one was a lot worse. There's from a lack of traction standpoint. Obviously, being outdoors does not help. They played a Super Bowl on this field in February. Like, goodness.
That was a choice.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me into just one of my last questions. Do you think Aaron Jones plays this week? He did practice on Thursday.
I would bet not. I would bet that he's practicing as part of the rehab. He's come back pretty quickly from these MCLs, and 2 games is not unheard of for him to come back. But I wonder if it's just, okay, this is part of the rehab, and we'll go one more week with it after this.
Was Matt LaFleur asked that today? Because I was going to, I was in the locker room, but I was going to ask him specifically, does this field give you any apprehension with Aaron Jones?
No one asked that. All he would say about Aaron Jones was he was limited.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't answer it, but I'd be curious what he'd say, because it would me. It definitely would. You need him for 4 games and maybe the playoffs after this, you know? A.J. Dillon on a bad field is not a bad option. So it would me.
Was that your Matt LaFleur impression?
What?
He's limited.
He's limited.
I think the 2-down lineman was his Matt LaFleur impression.
What did Aaron Rodgers used to say? Like, you need the eyebrows for a legit Matt LaFleur impression. Do you I know that we're still a few days out because it's a Monday night game, but do you have a general prediction for this game, Ryan?
I can't not pick the Packers. I understand what you're saying, Cassie. I really do. I think you make a lot of good points. I always pick a game, though, based on what I expect, and it's so much of it's the sample size and the way they're playing right now, and the Giants being the Giants. I can't not pick the Packers.
I think when it comes time to turn in our prediction, I'll pick the Packers too.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be surprised if it goes the other way.
No, that's a great point.
Spoon?
Yeah, I'm leaning Packers. I do think it'll be a little bit of a closer game than I thought it might have been a couple of weeks ago, but or a week ago. But yeah, I agree. It's hard to pick against them.
I've never had a harder season, and you've been here triple the amount of time I have, but I've never had a harder season when it comes to predictions.
Yeah.
And it's been like that ever since, like, in every May when the schedule comes out, just for conversational purposes, I come out with these way too early predicts. And I remember this May sitting down and writing, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then just the way the season has gone, they start really good, right? And then they lose 6 out of 8. And then you think the season's over, and they win their certainly their 2 toughest games, maybe their 3 toughest games of the year. Just when you think they're going to zig, they zag. So I don't know. I feel like I'm white-knuckling trying to make these picks, but
makes it fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it does.
It makes it definitely interesting. Last thing, I'm telling you what to talk about in your final 60 seconds. Christmas in New York. Spoon, I know you're so excited to go see the Christmas tree. What's on your Christmas in New York bucket list?
Nothing.
Since we'll be there this weekend.
Nada.
You're so boring.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you do in New York if like, you know, you didn't want to be a curmudgeon?
If I wanted to go and do something. Well,
take out the Christmas part of it.
I'm
going to
see a friend. Yeah, okay. I will see a friend.
Is there a favorite attraction?
Or favorite?
Well, I like Central Park.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be probably something I would do. I love to ride the subway. I could ride the subway all day long. Yeah. No. Beyond that, no.
Ryan?
Oh, I'll be doing enough to compensate for Spoon. I'll let's see. I will be going to a showing of the Rockettes.
Oh, me too.
Which one are you going to? Well,
Saturday night.
Okay. I'll be going Sunday. I will be going straight from there to Ground Zero. I always go to the 9/11 Museum. It's very well done, and there's something about just being there. I think especially, well, for anyone, but especially for someone that, you know, that happened in the formative years of our generation. That's some place I always visit. I we'll be going from there to the top of the observatory deck on One World Trade because the view up there is just spectacular. It's breathtaking. Doing a tour of the Rockefeller Center the next day, Monday, game day morning, and then do a little Citra Park after that before heading to the stadium.
Nice. You do have a full weekend.
Yeah, we packed it in.
I have like a list of things I do every time I go to New York, but this will be the first time I've gone at Christmas, so I'm like changing it up a little bit. So I usually go to Ground Zero, but I'm not going to do that this time. But doing the Rockettes, Wicked, going to Serendipity afterwards because you got to get the frozen. That's what you should try, Spoon, because I know how much you love chocolate. You ever gone to Serendipity?
Mm-mm.
Go to Serendipity and get the frozen hot chocolate. That's
Frozen hot chocolate?
Yeah.
I've never had that before.
It's such a fun thing to do like later at night. But yeah, doing that, and then gonna go see the Christmas tree. My favorite spot in New York, so I'm gonna try to get over there again, is the public library, the one that's over by like Lexington, and so I'll head over there too, see if they got some wreaths on the lions out front or something like that. So it's gonna be exciting. And then hey, there's a football game too, and we'll be there to cover that for you on Monday night. We will continue to have coverage for you here in Green Bay as the week continues. Again, just a little bit of a different schedule this week because it's a Monday night game. So they will practice Friday and Saturday as well. And then we will be in New York on Monday to cover the primetime game versus the Giants for you guys. Thanks as always. This has been the Green 19 podcast from JS Online at PackersNews.com.